Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz was one of the greatest thinkers of the 17th century, a philosopher, mathematician, and scientist whose ideas shaped modern philosophy in profound ways. Living during the age of rationalism, alongside figures like René Descartes and Baruch Spinoza, Leibniz believed that reason is the ultimate source of knowledge. But unlike others, Leibniz saw the universe not as a mechanical system, but as something deeply alive, structured, and meaningful. He aimed to reconcile science, religion, and metaphysics into one harmonious system. His philosophy is marked by optimism, logic, and a belief that reality is fundamentally rational. At the heart of Leibniz's philosophy lies his famous doctrine known as the Monadology. According to Leibniz, the universe is made up not of physical atoms but of simple, indivisible, immaterial substance called monads. Monads are the true building block of reality. They are not extended in space. They have no physical shape and they cannot interact with each other in a physical sense. Each monad is like a tiny center of perception, a mirror of the entire universe from its own unique perspective. Think of monads, a spiritual point of view. Every monad reflects the whole universe, but in its own way, with varying degree of clarity. Some monads, like those in inanimate objects, have very dim perception. Others, like human mind, possess clear and conscious awareness. What makes Leibniz's idea striking is that these monads do not casually interact. Instead, they exist in a perfect coordination system, as if synchronized from the beginning. This leads to one of his most fascinating ideas, the universe as a perfect order harmony. Leibniz made an important distinction between two kinds of truth of reason and truth of fact. Truth of reason are necessary and universal. They are based on logic and cannot be denied without contradiction. For example, mathematical truths like 2 plus 2 equal to 4 fall into this category. These truths are eternal, certain, and known through rational thought alone. On the other hand, truth of fact are contingent. They describe the world as it actually is, but they could have been wrong. For instance, the statement, "The sun rises in the east," is true, but it is not logically necessary. It depends on how the world happens to be. Truth of fact require experience and observation. They are grounded in reality but are not logically granted. Leibniz believed that even these contingent truths have explanation, though not always immediately visible. This distinction reflects his broader philosophical aim to show that both logical and experience have their place in understanding reality. Leibniz strongly defended the idea that certain knowledge is innate, meaning it is present in the mind from the beginning, rather than derived entirely from experience. He opposed the empiricist view, especially that of John Locke, who argued that the mind is a blank slate or tabula rasa. According to Locke, all knowledge comes from sensory experience. Leibniz disagreed. He argued that the mind is not empty at birth, but rather contains inherent structure and tendencies that shape our understanding. He compared the mind to a block of marble, which already has veins that guide the sculpture work. In the same way, experience may trigger knowledge, but the capacity for that knowledge is already within us. For Leibniz, ideas such as mathematical truth, logical principle, and even the concept of God are not simply learned. They are uncovered or awakened. The mind actively participates in knowledge rather than passively receiving it. This view reinforces his rationalist belief that reason plays a fundamental role in shaping human understanding. Leibniz offered several arguments to demonstrate the existence of God. These are grounded in reason, logic, and his broader metaphysical system. First, the cosmological argument. Leibniz begins with the idea that everything in the universe is contingent. It exists, but it could have been wrong. Since contingent things cannot be explained their own existence, there must be a sufficient reason for why they exist at all. This leads to the conclusion that there must be a necessary being, something that exists by its own nature. This necessary being is God. Second, the ontological argument. Following and refining the argument of Saint Anselm, Leibniz argued that God is a perfect being. If the concept of a perfect being is possible, then it must exist, because existence is a perfection. Leibniz strengthened this argument by claiming that the idea of God is logically coherent and therefore possible. Third, the argument from pre-established harmony. Leibniz observed that the universe operates in perfect coordination, even though its fundamental unit, the monads, do not interact. This harmony must have been designed from the beginning by a supreme intelligence. That intelligence is God, who created the universe in such a way that everything unfolds in a perfect order. Fourth, the argument from eternal truth. Leibniz pointed out that truth, like mathematics and logic, are eternal and unchanging. This truth must exist in a mind that is also eternal and unchanging. This ultimate source of eternal truth is God. One of the foundational principles in Leibniz philosophy is the principle of non-contradiction. This principle states that a statement cannot be both true and false at the same time and in the same respect. In simple terms, something cannot be both be and not be simultaneously. For Leibniz, this principle is the basic of all necessary truth. Every truth of reason depends on it. If a statement leads to a contradiction, it must be false. If does not, it is logically possible. This principle ensures clarity and consistency in thinking. It is the foundation upon which logic, mathematics, and rational philosophy are built. Another central idea in Leibniz philosophy is the principle of sufficient reason. According to this principle, nothing happens without a reason. For every fact, every event, and every truth, there must be an explanation for why it is so and not otherwise. This principle applies to everything, from the smallest detail to the entire universe. Even if we do not always know the reason, Leibniz insists that a reason must exist. It is this principle that drives his argument for God. Since the universe exists, there must be a sufficient reason for its existence. That reason cannot be lie within the universe itself, because everything within it is contingent. Therefore, the reason must lie in a necessary being, God. Leibniz also proposed the principle of the identity of indiscernibles. This principle states that no two distinct things can be exactly alike in every respect. If there is no way to distinguish between two things, if they share all the same properties, then they are not truly two things, but one and the same. In other words, complete similarity implies identity. Leibniz used this principle to argue for the uniqueness of every entity in the universe. Each monad is different from the every other monads. Even if the different is not immediately obvious, this idea reinforces his vision of a richly diverse universe, where every individual entity has its own unique perspective and role within the grand harmony of existence. One of Leibniz's most fascinating ideas is the doctrine of pre-established harmony. As we have seen, Leibniz believed that reality is made up of monads, independent, non-interacting entities. But this raises an important question. If monads do not interact, how does the world appear so perfectly coordinated? Leibniz's answer is elegant. He argued that from the very beginning, God created all monads in such a way that they are perfectly synchronized with each other. This synchronization is what he called pre-established harmony. A famous analogy used to explain this idea is that of two clocks. Imagine two clocks that always show the same time, not because they influence each other, but because they are perfectly set in advance by a skilled maker. Similarly, mind and body, or any two parts of the universe, do not casually interact. Instead, they unfold in the perfect agreement because of God's original design. For example, when you decide to raise your hand, it seems as if your mind causes your body to move, but according to Leibniz, there is no direct interaction. Instead, your mental state and your bodily movement are two parallel processes that correspond perfectly because they are pre-coordinated from the start. This doctrine allows Leibniz to explain order, unity, and harmony in the universe without relying on direct causal interaction between subjects. Leibniz's philosophy also addresses a deep and challenging issue, the problem of freedom. If everything in the universe is pre-established and follows a determined order, then are human beings truly free? Leibniz offered a subtle answer. He distinguished between necessity and certainty. According to him, our actions are certain. They will happen as a part of the harmonious plan, but they are not strictly necessary in the logical sense. Human action arises from internal principle within each monad. Especially rational soul, we act according to our desire, perception and understanding. In this sense, our actions are spontaneous and self-determined, not forced from outside. Leibniz called this kind of freedom as rational spontaneity. We are free because our actions flow from our own nature, even though they are part of a larger and divinely ordered system. He also argued that God, being perfectly rational, chose the best possible world, a world in which freedom and order coexist. So, while everything is part of a grand design, human beings still act according to their own reasoning and choice. Leibniz's philosophy presents a universe that is deeply rational, harmonious, and meaningful. From his theory of monads to his principle of logic and his argument for God, every part of his system reflects a belief in order and intelligibility. He envisioned reality as a perfectly coordinated whole, where every entity has its place and purpose. Even complexity and diversity as part of a greater unity, guided by reason and grounded in divine wisdom. Through his ideas on truth, knowledge, and freedom, Leibniz offered a vision of the world where science, philosophy, and religion are not in conflict but are different expressions of the same rational structure. His Thought challenges us to see the universe not as chaotic or random, but as an intricate and harmonious system, one that can be understood through reason and reflection. If you are still watching, I hope you are finding this content useful. Please like and share this video, subscribe to the channel and share your thought in the comment. Your support motivates me to create even more content like this.